Glad you made it to this page. My name is Agnesia Agrella, and I'm a business analyst at marketspaceproductivity.com. Welcome to tonight, where I'm sharing my 5 top tips on how to always get sign-off on your business requirements from your stakeholders. The first one is be a facilitator and not an expert. For me, it's all about drawing out the information and the needs from your stakeholder. You don't have to prove how much you know about the topic or the project. You have to understand what the stakeholder wants. Ask a lot of questions and really understand, and you'll use your innocence of not knowing what is the project about or what the stakeholder wants to actually draw out and give your stakeholders the interest in the topic, and that way they will give you more. The second one is meet all your stakeholders in person. I like to actually know my stakeholders individually, and sometimes I will meet them in my kickoff meeting first, and then I will understand which ones are comfortable and which ones need a bit more attention. But then afterwards, I will make individual appointments with each one of them to understand what they're about, what are their fears, and do they actually support the project? Are they against the project, or are they actually not sure and can sometimes change during the project depending on where the emphasis is? I want their buy-in. I don't want them to get defensive, and I don't want them to think that the project is threatening either their position or their power or authority in the organization. So from that perspective, I like to actually meet them individually and understand where they're coming from, and also give them the comfort that I will be looking after their needs. The third one is understand the impact that the project will have on each stakeholder. If there's a threat, or if they perceive there's a threat of their position, authority, or power, you will get resistance. And the minute they go into that resistance to change, you will not be able to change them. So from that perspective, you want to understand, and then you might have to do some interpretation and do a lot more meetings with certain stakeholders that think that their positions might be under threat. Remember, it's not here about the facts. When people go into the resistance of change, it's not factual at all. There's no logic involved when people resist change. It's emotional, and it's all about threatening their position, their authority, and their power. So you have to draw on all your soft skills to really get into their world and understand why they feel or perceive it as a threat. And that is where I will actually put a lot more emphasis in this training and on my trainings and sharing on my website, Market Space Productivity. That is what you will learn. Skills on how to understand yourself and skills on how to understand your stakeholder. So come to my webpage, take the tour, and learn more about how you can actually understand your stakeholders better. Number 4, take time to review with each stakeholder. Once you've done your elicitation and once you've done your requirements, I like to actually walk through, and it depends on how many stakeholders there are. I want to walk through my elicitation notes and also my requirements with each and individual stakeholder. That way they get time to ask the questions. When you put them in a room together, then all the fears and the power play come out, and then they want to look good in a group. But when you do it on a one-on-one with them, then they can ask the questions and they don't feel like they don't know in front of other people. So that's where I really build the trust that I'm looking after them. If they have reservations and they ask questions which they are not prepared to ask in the review meeting, I will actually ask it on their behalf. I won't call it out on their name or as their question. I will pretend that it's my question. That way I also build rapport with them. They will most probably come back and then comment on what I've said or answer my questions even for me, because I will be on their side. So I really build rapport with all my stakeholders by building trust, proving that I look after their needs. I'm not scared to put 2 or 3 stakeholders who completely disagree with each other in the same room to discuss with me as facilitator. But I will not do that in big groups. If there are any conflict of interest in a big group, I will take it offline on a one-on-one basis. I will then take the difficult personalities and then put them one-on-one with myself in a room, never in big groups. So that way I always manage my expectation and I put them in the big groups once the disagreements have been sorted out. I will not have a review meeting until I know that everybody has had their say, they've reviewed the requirements, and they know what I'm going to present at that walkthrough meeting. Then the last step is regularly follow up with your stakeholders. Once you've sent out your email or your communication asking for your sign-off, sometimes that happens in your walkthrough meeting, but sometimes you will have a review in your walkthrough meeting, and then afterwards you will send it out with a communication where they will actually then sign off. And nowadays with email, it's so much easier to actually put in an email and then put a voting button on the email asking them for sign-off at a specific time and a specific date. Then follow up regularly with each one of them who have not responded yet, who have not signed off. Do not send blanket emails to everybody, including the people who have already signed off. That just makes them frustrated, and they actually think that you don't know what is really happening. And they also get confused. Why do they get the email if they have already sent you an email with a sign-off? So do your follow-up with your individual stakeholder rather than in groups or in an email that goes out to everybody. That way you can also do a one-on-one meetings. I normally give them 2 or 3 reminders, and then I set up a meeting and I visit them. I will, in the meeting, then request them for a sign-off. And then sometimes I still find that there's questions that they want to ask, they're not clear, and if they're still not ready and they want to have conversations with other stakeholders, then I will set up a meeting. So I do all the work. I do the legwork. I do the follow-up. I really contact them, make sure that they're comfortable, and regularly also ask them in a nice way, what is the resistance to the sign-off? And that way I can address that, and then there's nothing. Once I've taken out all the obstacles, why they think they cannot sign off on the requirements, then there's nothing that they can say they don't want to sign off on. Then they can sign off with conditions. I normally have an approval with conditions and a rejection. If they've come back with rejection, I will set up a follow-up meeting and I will go through their reasons why they reject. So I take away all the obstacles why they don't want to sign off. I do the legwork, I do the follow-up, I make sure I get it. And that way you will ensure that you will always get sign-off from your requirements. If you want to know more, come take the tour at marketspaceproductivity.com. Looking forward to see you in one of my hangouts.